Personally, I am not a fan of world institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, because I believe that they've played a role in putting Africa's economy where it is today. Because if you look at the structural adjustment programs and the conditions with which they came, you wouldn't be surprised that Africa's economy is where it is today. But if the statistics and numbers are anything to go by, then they describe Uganda's economy as being one of a low developed country nature, which means that the people there live below $1 in a day. In the past couple of months, with the increase in the prices of fuel, which led to the increase in the prices of commodities, we then wonder, that is the status of the people of Uganda the same, or it has even gone worse? I'm sure if the World Bank was to carry out another review of our economy, I'm not sure if it would still be a low developed country, but I don't know if there's any other word to describe an economy below being low. Well, today we are here to evaluate the aspects of the status and the living standards of the people of Uganda, but precisely the young people. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Youth Roundtable. I'm joined by, of course, usually a panel of distinguished ladies and gentlemen that I shall introduce right away. And I shall begin from the extreme left. Is a friend and comrade of mine by the names of Emmanuel Muliisa. Emmanuel works with the National Youth Council Secretariat, and that also is a paralegal and an entrepreneur, if I'm to say. Emma joins us for the first time. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Ndugu Kidega.
Well, would you like to say hello to our viewers?
Yes, I want to greet everyone that is viewing from wherever you're viewing from, either on your phone or in the comfort of your living room on your TV. I hope we have a very good discussion regarding the topic today. Thank you very much.
Wow, amazing. Thank you very much, Emma, for joining us. Next to Emma is a friend of mine as well, Trassyleen Ankunda. Tracy is a law student at Makerere University. I know that she's the vice chairperson of the NRM University chapter. Lynn is the first timer. Lynn, you're welcome.
Thank you, Kidega. A very good afternoon to you all. We're very much humbled to be here on the round table, and we believe it's going to be the best. And thank you very much for tuning in.
Wow, I love that you anticipate the best of the best of the shows.
It's going to be the best.
Amazing. Next to Lynn and the gentleman in between is a face who I'm sure you've seen before. Those of you who follow our shows very religiously, I'm sure the face in between there is common to you. But well, I will introduce him once again. He's Onen Douglas, a student of law at Uganda Christian University. Onen, thank you for joining us, and our viewers would love to.
Thank you very much.
From you. Yeah.
I'm Kidega. I'm again grateful to come back again on this wonderful show. I'm looking forward to this wonderful discussion, and to the viewers outside there, please stay tuned and follow the discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, amazing. You've had stay tuned. I mean, if you look aside, you will miss a lot. Well, next to Douglas and on my immediate left is equally a first timer, Namakula Josephine, a student of Bachelor of Arts in Education at St. Lawrence University.
Thank you so much, moderator. Like he has said, I'm offering Bachelor of Arts in Education. I'm so grateful to be part of this. I've been following just like you people out there. One day you'll get a chance to be part of us here as we are discussing this. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere as we discuss this topic today.
Wow, amazing. And to our viewers, please, as the show keeps on running, feel free to put your comments in the comment section and let us know what you think. If you agree or disagree with any panelist, please put that comment on the comment section. And we shall begin right away. Douglas, let me begin with you for many reasons. Yeah, one of which is that at least you've been here before, so you can give a feel of the Youth Roundtable. Well, my first question to you is that, and I've already put this to the viewers, that personally, I'm not a fan of global institutions, but once and again, or from time and again, they keep on putting these numbers, to the world and describing economies in different ways. And even without the insurgence of the fuel prices and the prices of commodities, our economy was really described as one that is struggling, one that is, the people's living standards are very low. I cannot anticipate or predict what it is now with the high prices of commodities. So let me just start with you, your personal view. What is the standard of living right now as it is, both at a personal level, but also from the communities that you interact with, but mainly the young people?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Moses. First and foremost, allow me to start by disagreeing with your first statement, saying you disagree with institutions like the IMF. Well, as the world becomes a smaller global village, we are inclined to follow. We are inclined to follow what the world has to offer for us. If a country like Uganda has to go by the digits that are offered to us by the IMF, or any other country, not other than Uganda, which means we are inclined to follow to go by it. Countries like Rwanda, countries like Ghana, countries like Nigeria, all go by the digits that are offered by the IMF, which gives us which gives us a description of the kind of world that we are in. As I said, we are in a small global village. Now, to come to the topic of discussion today, standard of living, the plight of an ordinary person here in Uganda. Well, I would love to put standard of living in more of a contextual understanding of what we need to know this is. Allow me use an example or an analogy or a story. 2 weeks back when I was at campus, the lady that I oftentimes go buy food from, when I went to her and I asked her, hey, I said, Mama Hilda, I would like
our usual.
Yeah, the usual. And the price wasn't the same anymore. Yeah. And I asked her, what's the difference? Like, what's happening? She tells me, the person who delivers for me the food tells me the fuel prices are high, so he has increased the prices for me for the food that I buy. Even in the markets themselves, people are complaining that, you know what, because of the high fuel prices, definitely prices have to go high. In a nutshell, I would like to just put standard of living as the material quantity and quality of goods and services in the country. So now, the next question would then be, who is the ordinary person in Uganda? Who is the ordinary man? In my understanding, I would love to discuss that. An ordinary man is someone who just lives within his means. He survives from his daily earnings or from the monies that he earns at the end of the month. That is an ordinary person. So I wouldn't want to bring in the discussion of ordinary and average because there's going to be a distinction. I would love to say that an ordinary person is one who lives within his means and has no any other way of getting income. Now the next question will then be asked that what are those factors that affect standard of living? We have a plethora of factors that affect standard of living. We have factors like income, we have factors like healthcare, we have factors like crime rates, we have factors like housing, among others. Now, the question would then be, in a country like Uganda that has approximately a population, according to UBOS, a population of 48 million people, and the third youngest country in Africa with 78% of that population being youth, people below the age of 30. According to our constitution, the youth is between the age of 18 to 30. So a person who, in Uganda, if we have 78% of our population being below the age of 30 and a population of 48 million people, then with the factors that I've mentioned, the likes of income and employment opportunities, allow me start with the first factor that affects standard of living, employment opportunities.
Just before we go to the actual factors, let's first get everyone's perspective of what they think is the current standard of living in Uganda. But I love it that you're going fast forward. But just to make a rejoinder to your statement regarding global institutions, my argument is that if you look at the parameters used by the World Bank and IMF to determine what is a poor country and what is not a poor country, they use factors like GDP, the gross domestic product, which to me is a fallacy. Yeah, because how do you then tell me that because Emma has 1 million right now in his pocket and I have 200,000, we then put it in a pool, get the average, then all of a sudden I have 500,000. Now those are the parameters used by World Bank and IMF. But there are other parameters that we must embrace as Africans, as ordinary people, like household income. So that's why I have sentiments towards, I take their numbers with reservation. Yeah, because I used to believe that there is a whole colonial agenda. But anyway, let us keep it within the context of today's conversation. Lynn.
Yes.
You happen to be next to Douglas, so I'll just come to you right away. Okay. And you've heard what Douglas has said. He describes his own experience. I don't know if this is the same experience for you as well, because I think our viewers would love to appreciate that this is the story of every Ugandan and not just the likes of Douglas. So what is your own story and what you think about the standard of living.
Okay, thank you. Standard of living to me is how basically a common man or a common Ugandan are able to survive maybe on a daily basis. And to me, it would come in the sense that I would categorize it maybe in 3 sections. We have the people who are very rich. They have their own standard of living. We have those who are average, and we have those who are, I don't want to call it worse, but then we have those who are really in need. Like you stated, like most of the Ugandans are living averagely below $1.
Yeah.
So you can imagine below $1, if let's say $1 is 3,500, how much can one, or what can one use that money for? And then if we have the rich, even 3,000 is just like nothing to them.
Yeah.
It's nothing surely. And then we have the average. We have those who are there. Yes, they are earning their small money. So, and even in the long run, by the way, they are not sure how they're using the small money they earn. You know, there's this presumption, you think, maybe I have make a small money. Today you're buying lunch, you're buying this, fuel, and in the long run, when the month ends, you realize that you've even used more than you're earning.
Yeah.
Yes, so there's also that category of standard of living. And then I would basically say that all this runs up to very many factors, the standard of living. It could be an affection from maybe the level of education, how far you've gone, because there is the perception and assumption that those who are educated maybe are able to attain this or that. Maybe you can get a job and something. Maybe you can do this and that. And then there is also the issue of skills, the skilled labor. You're able to make bricks, so you can earn something. You're able to do the pottery and you can earn something. Maybe you can do washing cars and get some small money. So it all runs back to the different factors that contribute towards the standard of living. If, for example, if it is unskilled labor, or if you actually have not attained anything, you grew up in a village, you stayed there, you cannot even do fishing, as small as it is. You've not learned, you've not borrowed. So I feel like that also affects your standard of living. And then I would also say that environment we are in also affects the standard of living we attribute to. If, for example, you are in Kampala, you're in Kampala, oftentimes you find even forced, for example, maybe to purchase some things that are, if you're in the village, you find you've planted your tomatoes. So it is easier for you. You're saving that money, that is in case you have the money anyway. But if you're here in Kampala, you find we have no gardens, we have nothing. And a person is telling you that, you know what, one tomato is at 1,000. I remember a scenario when there was COVID, when we used to buy lemon, but just a tiny lemon, you'd buy it at 1,000. But you had no choice. So you find sometimes it is the first environmental pressure or the environment that you're in.
The forces of demand and
supply. That are forcing you to live in a certain standard way of living.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just pick a snippet from your submission, which is that at times the people who have gone to school, the assumption out there could be that maybe they are better placed to maybe make money and therefore improve their life, livelihoods and life standards. And I'm glad that we have a graduate right next to you. And Emma, let me come to you. I can excuse Onen and Lynn. They're still students, but at least I missed your graduation party because I was in Gulu. But I saw you graduating and being happy that you had finished school. So is it any different for the graduates, those who have finished school versus those who are still in school? Are the standards of living in Uganda discriminating between a student and a graduate, or it is rough everywhere?
Kidega, I don't know why you'd think the standards of living would differ between a graduate and the person who's just still in school. Well, we all buy tomatoes from the same markets.
Yeah.
We all buy soap from the same shops.
Yeah.
And then most of us are in what they usually call this kind of employment that is not official, this white collar kind of employment.
You're the hustlers.
So most of us, the young people, whether you graduate or you're not, we are all in this kind of work that is not official, these white collar jobs. So that means since we are in the nature of that kind of employment, we are underemployed. That nature of work is categorized with a lot of underemployment. What do I mean? That the money you're paid is not equivalent to what you should earn. Yeah, they are just giving you more like a survival. They pay you a wage to survive. So if you work, and let's say each day, most of those kind of jobs pay roughly around 8,000, or even that could be much, sometimes 10,000, even some pay 5,000, yeah, kind of wages per day. So if you're surely earning 7,000, that's, or even 10,000, let me put it at 10,000 per day, and you're buying one tomato at 1,000, and then you need to cook your food with about 3 tomatoes, that means already 3,000 is gone, and you cannot cook your food effectively. Take a look at the prices of a bar of soap. Usually, a few months ago, we could buy a bar of soap, this small bar of soap, at 500. You could walk to a shop and say, give me some soap. You would pay 500 shillings, and then you would get a bar of soap. Now, that same size of bar of soap is now 2,000. So if you earn 10,000 per day as your wage, wherever you work in that non-white collar job, how much would you be left with? So whether you're a graduate or whether you're not a graduate, we are all affected the same way. Ndugu Kidega, right now, a liter of, okay, still on the issue of the bar of soap, I only pray that our only hope to maintaining proper hygiene was using soap. Actually, soap saved us a lot during the years we were suffering with the pandemic. Of course, COVID is still around, yeah, but soap helped us a lot. But also soap did not only help us with the pandemic, it also helps us maintain proper hygiene. So if people cannot even afford soap, then we are likely to face other issues relating to bad hygiene. People not washing their hands, people not washing clothes, or just rinsing things around just because they cannot buy a bar of soap, which was initially at 3,000, a full bar of soap, and now it is at 7,000 to 10,000 shillings. So you can spend your entire day's wage on buying just soap, and then a liter of cooking oil, which was you could get 3 liters at 18,000 shillings. Now you get half a liter of cooking oil at how much? 10,000 almost.
Wow. So
that means you cannot even cook your proper meal and eat the way you want. So we are all struggling, whether you're a graduate or whether you're not a graduate. So what I also want to add that I had my friend Kidega state that the World Bank is in conflict with the World Bank, but the World Bank, why we need such organizations is because they have the autonomy, they have the resources to carry out research. These are people that can come into this country and do the necessary research, run around the whole country, doing statistics, interviewing different people, so they come up with proper representative statistics. Yeah, they actually employ some of the young people they find in the country to do the statistics. So according to them, they made an equivalent of, they established a poverty line, that for you, the poverty line is at $1.90 per day. If you turn that into Uganda shillings, that's around 7,000 shillings. So they say that whoever lives, this is the world standard, whoever lives below, whoever cannot have purchasing power per day, per head of 1.90, that's 7,000 Uganda shillings per day, is poor. The Ministry of Finance itself here in Uganda in the first half of 2021 stated that 28% of Ugandans were poor. Okay. So that means 28% cannot have purchasing power of $1.90 per day.
Okay. Fair enough. Just Emma, one question to you before I come to Josephine. What do you think, and this is it is slightly out of context, but what do you think is keeping the world today at peace?
What do I think is keeping the world today at peace? Well,
Do you think it is the United Nations Security Council?
No. I think every country has its own way of maintaining peace within its own sovereign state.
So you don't think...
Each country is sovereign.
Exactly.
So it has a way.
It maintains its own peace.
Yeah, it maintains its own peace.
So
it depends on the country. Just a moment. It depends on the country to play about their own way of dealing with sovereignty.
Yes.
And therefore affect their own peace.
You just relegated the role of international bodies like the United Nations in maintaining peace. So if they have a small role to play in playing peace, then how about in defining the world economy? We can as well relegate their role.
No.
Because the idea is that the powers of the West are advancing towards agenda setting. So agenda setting is about telling you, oh, Africans, you're poor. Africans, you're this. Africans, you're this. Oh, this is the world standard. Oh, this is the world standard. And for as long as we continue looking up to them for, the numbers and all that, then I think they can continue controlling us.
Well, but can I answer you?
I have to bring in Josephine.
Just let me come in even within that.
I'm not part of the debate.
You would have given me an opportunity to answer you.
Maybe she can actually...
Let me just even continue with where he has talked that. Whatever the numbers they are bringing in to us, they measure the moderate ones. I was reading research on something, how many Ugandans, especially youths that are unemployed, and I got to find out that 2.6, and yet according to what our friend told us here, that majority of the Ugandans today, the population, they totally told us that we are around 48 million Ugandans. So if we are 48 million, and around 77 are youths, percent are youths, and again on that percentage, youths are poor and are unemployed. And still the scenario, I heard you speaking about the white-collar jobs and the graduate and the standards of living still. You're going to find out that the standards of living affect all of us, like he said openly. But it affects mainly even more the graduates than the non-graduates. I got a conversation to interact with a non-graduate. Why? A non-graduate is free to join anything. And graduates, here we come and so we want white-collar jobs. We are waiting, I'm a lawyer, I'm pursuing a teacher, I'm pursuing this. And to go back on the statistics I made, I saw that if you want to survive in Uganda today, and you have a family of 4 children, you need around 6 million and beyond, more than 6 million, a family of 4 children. So if you are alone, you need around...
6 million per... What
per
is the
month,
term?
per month.
Without rent, actually.
Good, without rent. So you need to survive on 6 million without rent. And if you are to look at our country today, people are renting. So that means if you add in rent, add around 2 million. And that is a family of 4. This means if you're alone, one person to survive in Uganda, you need more than 1 million. And with people who are saying that we have white-collar jobs, we are employed or we have studied. Well, by the way, the truth is, if you're to look at that,
Josephine,
wait a bit.
You're
If you're to look at that,
on 1 million per month.
That's what I'm coming on. That these people calculated, they made calculations. Why they are saying that the standards of living today in Uganda should be 1 million as a person. They think that the least payment should be 400, the least payment. Do you know that in the field I'm in, I told you at the beginning, I'm doing Bachelor of Education. I'm a teacher. So do you know that there are teachers out there that are even don't even reach up that percentage they put in place? They said the least amount someone should be paid is 400. Today we have teachers that are paid 100 a month. Private teachers. Private teachers are paid 100,000 a month. So if this private teacher gave birth earlier, like before we teachers have been doing a diploma, 2 years ago you start teaching primary teachers. So if this person is earning 100,000, too much 150, according to the statistics they made, can really this person survive in Uganda? Then they came up and said, let's go to subsistence farming. But subsistence farming is not helping out very many people. So the statistics, still I go back there, that they are looking at the moderate numbers and they are planning what we have to follow. But most of the moderate numbers, they are forgetting the people, the common people we are here to discuss about. That there is this common person who wakes up every morning and goes to town without food, just moves. So spends the entire day, gets 1,000. I don't know whether you people have tried to see this. I don't know whether it has come this side. I come from that side of Masaka Road. But we have people who call up people, not tax conductors, but they just stand on the roads to welcome you. Passengers come, we enter. They are not tax collectors.
Mobilizers,
moreover. And this person is given 500. So if this person mobilizes around 5 taxes, imagine he mobilizes a tax and it's full of 14 passengers. It leaves, this person is given 500. Then let's say in a day, this person mobilizes around 10. And this person has a child, those are 2, has a woman, 3. Maybe they have 2 children, 4. And the statistics is saying that to survive in our country, you have to be beyond 6 million.
Yeah. Well,
and
I think that's a good way to put it. I think what she's trying to say is that, Emma, I'll give you a chance. I think what she's trying to say is that the World Bank in their endeavors ignores or doesn't factor in certain conditions, like minimum wage bill. World Bank assumes that there is a minimum wage in every country, which isn't the case, for example, in Uganda. There is no minimum wage in Uganda. They factor that, everyone earns a day-to-day income, which isn't the case. So I think the gaps and the shortcomings in their parameters used is why I think me and Josephine are saying, can we first put those numbers to halt? At least we can rely on you boss, because you know that they're at least done domestically. Emma, let me give you a minute to respond. I wanted to bring in Comrade Douglas, but I see you have a point to make.
Well, wow. I don't know why the debate is, it's not even a debate. The discussion is shifting to a direction of us disagreeing with choosing to disagree or agree with the statistics that the World Bank gives. But I want to inform you that anyway, these organizations don't work on their own. Even when they come into a country, they factor in the statistics from the countries themselves. They look at, for example, in Uganda, they will consider statistics by you boss. They don't just get these things out of the blue. And I also want to inform my friend Josephine that it is not enough to use words like mene, majority. It's not enough to just state those statements. You must attach. You must attach a figure. So if you're refuting, if you're choosing to refute the figures given by the World Bank, then you should give us your own figures instead of just using the words refute. Just as I conclude, I think we all live in Uganda. We have all been to the most remote of places. In the most remote of places. Why those people are able to survive, even when they do not earn a living, is because of our great backbone, which is agriculture. You'll find families where they do not earn or sell anything, but they grow what they eat. So that's how most Ugandans survive in the most rural areas. So even if they do not earn a lot of money, they rely on subsistence agriculture, which the president is encouraging people to move away from. Yeah, he uses the term Chida Chonka, but I don't want to delve into that so much. But why most Ugandans are able to survive is because of our backbone, which is agriculture. That a home will have a garden, and from that garden they will get food which they will cook using means that are not expensive. And then they will survive, because after all, surviving is about being able to afford a meal. Thank you very much.
But isn't that what should actually be worrying us? That we are surviving on subsistence means, we don't care about making money. We are comfortable with the fact that we have gardens and we can plant food. But anyway, let us
just quick.
1 second.
Yeah, just on the subsistence farming. Do you know that it's 34.8% that is basing on it? Do you think where is the other percentage? What are these people surviving on? You're looking at the 34% and you're grading the rest that are below.
Okay, fair enough. Douglas.
I think Josephine is using statistics wrongly.
No.
I wanted to guide her.
Let me hold the debate between the two of you and first bring in Douglas. Douglas, Dambisa Moyo is a Zambian economist. She has been privileged to attend Oxford University and Harvard University. And she writes a book, very interesting one, entitled Dead Aid. But I think in one of her chapters, she describes African economies as dual economies, that the gap between the rich and the poor is actually very wide. And in Uganda, I am not sure if the other side of the coin is actually feeling this pinch. compared to the way this other side, because about less than 10% of Uganda's economy are actually people who are extremely wealthy. They participate in the global trade. They can import, export. They are part of the world market. Okay, I will not mention names, but I think we know examples of such people. So, and they are the people who you would even assume to be participating in transporting of this fuel and all these things, and and then there's the other 85 to 90% of the country's population, which is our concern today. But then how, because the gap between the rich and the poor seems to be very wide to an extent that such factors might not affect people who are supposed to be making the decisions to actually make the lives of people better. Because I don't think I don't think a minister in Uganda is feeling this impact the same way you are. But they are the decision makers who are supposed to sit in cabinet and say, but how can we address these challenges? So do you think this gap could somehow be playing a role towards either creating a remorse, creating complacency towards finding solutions, or just, not playing a role at all?
Income inequality will always be a stronghold to play a part in what we're facing today. You said that the inequality gap is quite huge because the rich in Uganda are extremely rich and the poor are extremely poor. So to answer that question straightforward is, yes, it's playing a part. Now, let me delve into the discussion of today. If we are having income inequality as among the factors that are leading to that affects the standard of living, let me first start by bringing to our attention that we need to first look at the employment opportunities available in Uganda. We have very minimal available employment opportunities at play at the moment. Now, as a country, that is a worry because the lesser the people you employ, that means the more poor people you have in a country, which means you'll even have a lower tax return, and which means you will not be in position to offer the services. Now, let us look at that from income, employment, and then the services. If the income inequality is huge, the poor are very poor and the rich are very rich. The rich can afford the resources. Even if fuel today is at a price of 5,500, they will not feel the pinch because they have the money at their disposal. Now, a poor person, let's say a person who earns, for example, 400,000, if you have a car and you're renting a house, so you have to travel every day with your car, which means you have to fuel the car. Before you know it, your money is done. Now, for you who is earning 400,000 and someone who has a bank balance of over 80 million will not feel the pinch. That's the income inequality we're looking at here. Now, income is a factor that affects standard of living. Employment opportunities that will still relate with income. If Uganda has employment opportunities of approximately 41% or 42%, which means the unemployment rate is more, about 50%. So if half of the population is unemployed, let us even look at the young people. 80% of the young people are unemployed. Now, what does that mean? That means that we have more people who do not have money at their disposal to afford standard of living. Now, if we have people who cannot buy these goods and services that we have, now what then happens? We had recently the tax proposals that were being brought to Parliament. Now, me as the ordinary Ugandan, I would be thinking, does my country want me to stay in my country? Because with what we're facing now, again, you're bringing new tax proposals. We do not have money, we do not have jobs, but you're still bringing more tax proposals in Parliament. What do you want the ordinary Ugandan to survive on? Fuel prices are high, which is subsequently affecting all prices that are at play. You go to any shop, someone tells you fuel is high, affecting prices of goods. Then, which means now this will lead us to the poverty rate in this country. The poverty rate is at approximately 41% according to IMF by 2020. Now, what does that mean? If we have a poverty rate of approximately 41%, which means 41% of the population of Uganda live or survive below $1 a day. You guys have been arguing about white-collar jobs. Yes, I would love to assert that the British introduced to us a system that we think going to school is going to school and attaining and then getting a bachelor's or what, and then working in an office is the only way of survival, which is very wrong thinking in this very, very skilled kind of century that we're in. Elon Musk recently began a company that is employing people who did not go to school but have skills that can at least,
Earn them a living.
Yes, help people earn a living. Now you're looking at a country where every young child, when you ask a kid, what do you want to, when you grow up, what do you want to be? A lawyer, a teacher, forgetting that we have other avenues that could make them earn money.
Yeah.
But back to our topic of discussion today. Now, if we are looking at all those factors at play that are affecting the standard of living of the ordinary Ugandan, then we are at a state whereby Ugandans themselves are losing hope. Ugandans themselves are losing the trust in the government. We talk about the social contract theory. If we as the citizens give to the government have to give back to us. But if that is not happening, then what kind of hope do we have as an ordinary Ugandan? I was watching news yesterday, and they're talking about the long queues at the offices of Ministry of Internal Affairs. Ugandans getting passports. Now, those long queues weren't there before. They were there, but not as they were there today. If you sit down and think, what does that mean?
Ugandans are living in that country.
If many Ugandans are signing up for passports, what kind, like, does the government sit down and look at all these factors at play? If your own citizens are going for passports, what does that mean? The people that are supposed to be giving you taxes to run the government, to run your government, are running away from your country.
I thought it's you who was advocating for us to be a global world.
Yes, we're advocating for
a global citizen.
Yes, the global village is open for anyone to come and go.
Yes,
so if your country is not giving you the incentive to stay in your country,
why shouldn't Ugandans have the liberty to own a passport to be part of the global?
Yes, but if you have to sit back and to look, why are they getting the passport? Do you just get the passport to sit or to travel abroad?
To travel.
That is
okay. Fair enough. Lynn, let me just bring you in. And Douglas mentions a very important point. The social contract between government and its people. And I think our legal framework is anchored around the social contract. What does the government do for its people, but also what are the obligations of the citizens? Let me take you back. Alexandra Hamilton, when he was USA Secretary of State, introduced a policy called the Smooth Holiday Tariff. And the idea was that how can we protect the domestic companies? How can we, it was an inward-looking economic strategy, where they taxed highly imports, so as to build the American economy and to develop the domestic companies. So and that's why today we celebrate the Wall Street companies of America. So the idea is that government has an essential role towards building an economy, an essential role towards dictating the market prices, an essential role towards influencing the standards of living, because they have the coercive tools.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the state tools are at their disposal. Earlier on, I mentioned that you are a leader within the ruling party, and this should concern you, because Douglas seems to suggest that you've failed at your obligation of the social contract. Ugandans are religiously paying their taxes, which is their obligation, but as government, it looks like you've left them to fend on. Well, I'm not saying your government, but at least you support a political party that is in government.
Yes.
So maybe you believe with some of their policies around the economy. So I don't know. Have you failed to protect Ugandans? Because he's saying that you are instead bringing in more taxes, even at such a dire economic status. Do you have these conversations, at least as the youth of the NRM? Do you sit down and say, but you guys, yes, we support our political party, but I think that we need to advise our leadership on this economic strategy? Do you have this conversation?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to, first of all, say that the government has a role, but yes, we as Ugandans, primarily, we also have a role to play. Here is the thing. Yes, we are paying the taxes. I cannot say that the government is doing everything right. No, they are not doing everything right. We are paying the taxes. And if I would take a look at maybe the 2021 elections, the money that was spent, more than trillions, I think it was in trillions. So where was that money going? Were they taking it to Sudan? Were they taking it to Kenya? Where was that money going? It was going to us, the Ugandans. Because that's the money that would come to your village. Some of them give you a bar of soap and you vote. So primarily we as Ugandans, we have played a very negative role.
Oh, interesting angle.
We have played a very negative role in whatever is happening now in Uganda.
Yeah.
Because you will find, yes, we have the leaders. If I would take you back, before we had maybe few or no laws that were in favor of women. And do you know the reason? There are very few legislators that were women. So you'd find, for example, if it is inheritance and a woman is supposed to get property, since the men are the ones in power or they're the ones legislating, they'll be like, no, a woman should not.
Yeah.
Just, I don't want to call it greed, but maybe it could also be partly greed. But then their voice was heard more than that of a woman, because literally they had no one to speak out for them. So if and with time, when we saw the ladies come on board, we have seen several amendments towards the cause.
We have seen pro-women.
Exactly. We have
laws.
seen women actually take the front and feel like, you know, I can also do it through inspiration. So I would like to say that even us as Ugandans, right from the village, you will find we are the people that actually are the root cause of all this.
So we are part
I
of the
don't
problem.
want to say that only NRM. I would not want to say that NRM is doing all good. Honestly, I'm also amused at how these people think and the taxes. I'm like, oh my God, it's actually one of the things I don't like about this government. I'm like, oh my God, these taxes? Tracy, I got to buy even an apple. Now they tell you I've added 300.
But factor in the aspect that these taxes are being proposed on Ugandans, but we are at the same time proposing tax waivers for foreign direct investors. So
yes.
I think our economic policy needs to be
rectified.
Needs to be
reviewed.
Yes.
So on that issue,
it is outward looking.
Yeah, on that issue, I believe that yes, those taxes are there. They're really not good because if I do not have what to eat and then I'm supposed to pay, we are paying indirect taxes, by the way, through the fuel. Only that you've not seen them say you're paying tax fuel or you're paying whatever. We are paying the taxes indirectly. So if I cannot even afford a bar of soap, there are things that I cannot, I must travel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where I'm going to, get some small money.
That's true.
But then even going there is a problem.
Okay.
So I think the government needs to realize and actualize whatever they are planning or to implement, right? And know what the actual problem is on the grassroots.
But are the youth in the NRM political party,
yes,
are you clamoring for some of these changes? Because if you're saying the government should, are you playing a role as an internal?
Okay, I would basically start with us as the NRM Makerere chapter. We are going to have a conference, a press conference where we can, because one of the ways, to let people aware is speaking out.
Yeah. And
then speaking out so that maybe someone listens. Or it could be through maybe a letter. Yeah. You could write a letter to the president.
Okay.
Or you could write...
Glad to know that you're planning to speak.
Yes, we are.
You're planning. We hope that you can eventually speak.
And also, Honorable Kidega, you're also on our National Youth Council.
No, here I am. Here I'm purely a moderator. I own no titles on this panel. Douglas, just 1 minute. I have to bring in Emma.
Thank you very much. She makes a very controversial point. She says in the recent elections that happened, the government splashed trillions of shillings. Personally, democracy, we as Uganda, we aligned ourselves to democracy at a time whereby we weren't ready. Look at from 1900 to 1962. From nowhere, because of, I think, pressure that was happening around the African continent, Uganda opted for independence. Remember, the colonial masters came with an incentive of resources and exploitation. They did not have any idea of democracy. Now, I think maybe that is the repercussions that we are facing today as a country. Back to your question of during the elections, that is democracy. We are not yet even ready for democracy, if I may say. But back to your question of trillions of shillings being splashed in the recent elections, and you're saying the citizens played a role. Would the citizens have played a role had the government not offered them those bars of soap that you're talking about? If the government itself is opting for bribery,
did they have a right to reject that bribery?
As the citizens, even the government itself has a mandate to go against actions such as bribery. you're a student of law. If you're to study criminal liability, those are categorized as white collar offenses. Aren't they already omitting it? They are. Now, as a government, you even have an obligation to sensitize your masses. You talk about, you sensitize them to avoid
The
actions, the civic awareness.
consciousness.
Yes. Now, if, as a government, if you're opting for that way, then do you think as a nation we are going in the right path? Let's look at that angle.
She qualified a statement and said, actually, all political players were indulging in this.
It's
so
okay.
It wasn't only the government.
Yes,
so we are all
those political players, and then you're then blaming the citizens. The citizens just want to survive. They do not have the resources.
They were at the receiving end. Okay, fair enough. Emma, I want to bring you in, and on two fronts. One, the issue of taxation. I'm glad that I've seen the National Youth Council, where you work, or a team that you're a part of. You tabled a petition to the Speaker of Parliament, challenging some of these, taxation policies, but also advocating that, the youth-led businesses should be given tax waivers. I think that is kudos to you guys. But now the point stands, and this I want to bring in what Comrade Onen and Nin were urging about, that maybe we Ugandans have a role that we have played, and we are only reaping what we sowed. That we cannot continuously milk political players during their campaign periods, then now expect them to be at the forefront of advocating and or to be at the forefront of maybe agitating for some of these negative policies. I mean, they are there to now reap what they gave you. So do you think that there could be a lacuna actually in the population, that we have actually played a role towards,
Well, Ndugu Kidega, the discussion today was mainly focusing on the standards of living. The discussion about elections and what happens during elections, who is given what, I don't think I want to engage in that discussion. When I'm invited on a discussion of elections, I'll engage in that. But fast forward, I want to focus on the issue that Douglas raised of unemployment and people rushing to get passports. Well, fellow young people that are watching me, and those that are even not young but are trying to rush. By the way, first of all, just a disclaimer, not everyone that gets a passport is seeking to go and flee the country because of anything. Some of us grew up when we are told that some of the important documents you must have as a Ugandan, you must have a passport. Even it is just for prestige, just for you to prove that I am a Ugandan. Yeah. Sometimes people get passports just to prove that they are Ugandans. A driving permit is another document. Now a national ID is another. So it is not a guarantee that whoever is seeking for a passport is seeking to run away from the country. Secondly, also importantly to note that even those that are fleeing the country to go and seek for jobs, there is no country that has no unemployment. There is no country. There is just about few countries. There might be actually less than 10 countries. That includes Norway, Iceland, such countries where the population is much less. Yeah, their populations are even less than 5 million. And they have plenty of resources. Those are countries where I would say there is less unemployment, there is no unemployment, or there is less of it. So everywhere you're seeking to go, there is unemployment. And of course, what is also funny is that whichever jobs we run away from here, the informal jobs we run away from doing here, are the same jobs we run to do in those countries. Okay. For example, you would be okay to run and just clean, probably do cleaning in some hotel somewhere in some country, which you could also do here. Someone may argue that the payment is different, but also the cost of living in that country is different from here.
That's true.
So whatever you earn here, or whatever you earn that side, is also equivalent. You're going to face the same what we call payments that you make that side, taxes. You're going to face them in that regard. So I want to encourage those of us to stay here. Ndugu Kidega, on the question you've asked me over the fight on taxation, first of all, I want to first state categorically that Ugandans are not lazy, especially young people. In just 2014, that's about 8 years ago, Uganda was ranked by the Global Entrepreneur Network as the most entrepreneurial country. 8 years later, there has been challenges. We lost our position. We are probably not the most entrepreneurial country. But the zeal is still there. The energy, because of the young population, is still there. Now, where I want to agree with my colleague here, Aline, is that we need to speak to the government. One of the reasons why some of these businesses have failed, now I work at the National Youth Council Secretariat, and one of the things that triggered us to move forward to petition the Speaker of Parliament just recently, about last week, which motion is supposed to be discussed. It was on social media, on our social media platforms. National Youth Council Uganda. One of the reasons why we petitioned the Speaker is one of these key challenges that you see. At one point, we are ranked as the most entrepreneurial country, but then we don't have businesses making it up to 8 years now. So what happened? These businesses would be employing so many young people and so many Ugandans, whether young or not. So the challenge, one of the challenges, I must say it's not the best challenge, but one of the challenges we realized is that businesses in their young stages and the tax policies of the country affect them so much. For example, you know how we struggle to raise capital. Everyone struggles to raise capital to start up a business. Yeah. So most of the times you find yourself that all the capital you raise in Uganda as a young person. Yeah. Let me pick a line. Let me say you want to start up a small manufacturing plant. You want to manufacture anything. I will not specify. Yeah. So, but you want to manufacture. So you might find that all the money you need, you're going to raise in capital, or you have in capital. You might spend it in paying either taxes or licenses. Yeah. I'll start with issues to do with licenses. For example, to own a manufacturing setup here in Uganda, you must pay for an operational license, which is annual. Yeah, that is one. You must pay for you must, if you're to have other sectors where you have your goods sold from, you must pay for a trading license. All these are licenses. Yeah, those are all local taxes. Before I continue, allow me continue on the issue of taxes. I want to clarify.
Just 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds. So you pay a lot of licenses, and then income tax. Yeah, you have to pay income tax per year. So why don't we petition the Speaker and we seek that the motion is discussed on the floor of Parliament, that you see, why don't you give these businesses a grace period of say 2 or 3 years without paying income tax, such that they are able to accumulate enough capital and survive. So that's one of the key issues, because certainly Ugandans are not lazy and Ugandans are very entrepreneurial. Now, number two, even if you want to start a supply company, yeah, for you, most of what knocks out young businesses is the VAT certificate, that you must be VAT certified. Do you know what it takes, according to the policy, to get a VAT certified? Your business must be earning 150 million per year. That's according to URA rules. Yeah. Or it must be at least able to make 50 million in 3 months. Yeah. So that means it knocks you out. So you cannot compete as a young person with your business. You cannot compete favorably. You cannot compete favorably with other companies that probably have resources to be certified VAT. So we are seeking for some of those policies, tax policies, to be revised so that they favor young companies and young businesses so that they thrive. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Josephine, I have to begin with you from the break. I think, could you kindly allow us to take a short break, then we shall be back. To our viewers, we hope that you are enjoying the conversation. Like I had mentioned earlier on, please feel free to put your comments in the comment section. Let us know what you think. If you agree with the panelists' view, please jot that down on the comment section. But for now, don't even look aside, because you look aside, you miss a very important point. See you shortly after the break. Bye-bye. It's amazing that to our viewers, you've managed to keep it here on the Youth Roundtable, even after that short commercial break. The Youth Roundtable, of course, continues to join the rest of the world to celebrate our lovely mothers who break their camel's back, I should say, to ensure that we go to school, ensure that we have what we need. So the Youth Roundtable really commemorates and celebrates each and every single mother. So to all the mothers out there, please, you are doing an amazing job, and We love you all. But let's just bring it back to our conversation for today. And Josephine, I promised to begin with you. And precisely because the way Douglas and other colleagues have explained, the living standards, it only demonstrates that unemployment or having a job is an essential, prerequisite, if I'm to say. But you know that having a job goes back to having or attaining a skill, right? And attaining a skill goes back to our education. And you are a student of education, right? So I think there is no better person to ask this question than you. The issue around our education structure, our education system, has it played a role towards, one, limiting our access to jobs? Because at least according to our colleagues, is that if you can get a job, then you can earn a salary, you can pay your taxes, you can afford a standard of living. So, but if you cannot attain quality education, then by all means, the aftermath will be far-fetched for you. So do you think that our education system is the right system to empower Ugandans, to empower young Ugandans, to be able to finish their education and be able to earn, get a job and earn a realistic salary? Because many have argued that our education system is actually still colonial in nature. So I don't know what you think, but maybe we could begin with that. What is your view about the education system in Uganda? Has it played a role towards affecting our livelihoods? And then how can we go about it?
So thank you so much, moderator. If you're to look at the education system we had before 2020, then I could have agreed with this question that indeed we are so colonial and we are following what has been told to us. The education system we had before 2020, it was worse than I can say, because this was the system where someone studies around 15 subjects in all level. That is secondary. 15 and you study a lot, they tell you to drop around up to 3 in A level, but still you enter university and the course you're going to do is not attached to the subject you've been doing, apart from for the doctors, for the lawyers, for the teachers. But God, we thank God so much that the government sat back, the education center sat back, and they formulated the 2020 new curriculum. I know our viewers, you've seen a lot of the new curriculum and you've heard about it. This new curriculum that was formulated, our students are subjected, so far we have 2 years, the senior 2s and senior 3s, and the senior 1s that are following this curriculum. It was formulated that students start at exactly 8 a.m. and they end at 2:55 p.m. After the end of the subjects, these are the normal subjects that we'll be teaching, the history and the usual that we've been using in the old curriculum. But they have added an extra value to it. Today now, after 3, they rest around 5 minutes, then exactly 3 p.m. we subject our students to skills. The school chooses the skills to which the students will attain. Now I go against you that now the education system we are earning today, it's better. That the skills someone will leave senior 1, senior 2. You're going to find that last term, because now we have started second term. Last time we had the end of the senior 1 and they practice what we call the project work. When parents came in to see the project, someone could make a chair. We had girls who could bake a cake. We had girls who could make now uniforms for the school. So these skills are earned within that period of time. But if we were to look at the education system before, most of us here went through that education system, that we reached university for us to do our career guidance and we didn't know what to do because we were packed with a lot of theoretical work. But today, everything is changing. That today the system we are following has changed and students are going to move out of the school, not looking for the white collar jobs, not going against that the education is not going to be important to us, but knowing that if our books fail somehow, I can make a cake. If our books fail somehow, I can go for this. You're going to see that before this education system came in 2020, that people or parents could go further, that after someone completing Form 6, then they go to take you to a technical school to impact you with skills. Yet you've spent almost 6 years in school. Then that's why most of the people were now resorting to being uneducated, saying that you're educated, you completed Form 6, but you've joined our field also. You're coming in the technical world. Now me who goes to P1, P2, P3, I learn English, I go to technical, I'll be better than you. But things have changed today that in the lower curriculum that we are following today, skills are given onto the subjects that we teach up to 255, 3 and beyond. Students are impacted with the skills.
Amazing. And I think, Lynn, maybe this is some credit to your NRM government that you're beginning to, bring in new strategies towards, some of these challenges. And I think that's a good way to go. Douglas, let me just bring you in. Still on the area around education. You mentioned Elon Musk. There are so many names of that category. The Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jack Ma's, Those are people who have capitalized on technology as their fulcrum, as their backbone towards becoming global billionaires. So that only demonstrates to you the role of technology. And let's just speak about technology for a second. And, I have a colleague who he stays in Kenya, but he works for an American company because he has embraced technology and he has acquainted himself with the skills that the world is moving towards. So one, do you think that Uganda is ready to embrace the ever-growing technological demands? Because, with technology comes in efficiency, it comes in more opportunities. So if we are to discuss creating more job opportunities, then we must think about building a more tech-literate population. So what is your view about technology? And do you think it is something that, if well capitalized, could enable us improve our living standards in the sense of availing us with more job opportunities? But also, do you think that our government is doing what it has to do to prepare the population towards embracing technology in its sense?
All right. Thank you very much, moderator. Allow me start by first responding to my comrade this side about employment or the employment opportunities. He says that that unemployment is everywhere. Yeah, I do agree with that statement. And unlike in the Scandinavian countries, whereby they do not have the unemployment rates. Now, allow me bring this to numbers. If a country like Uganda with over 32 universities and annually we have over 30,000 graduates and over 400,000 come into the job market, and the job market only offers 52,000 jobs. Where does that put us? We have a deficit of over 348,000 deficit of jobs. So if we are to look at it in terms of rate, we are not yet at that level whereby we can offer enough employment opportunities. If you compare maybe with some countries whereby annually in a country you have over 400 students graduating, and maybe the job market offers over 392,000 jobs, at least that deficit can be worked on, because in the next year you can have more opportunities and more people getting into the job market. That is what we're arguing here, as per the case of Uganda. Back to the question of technology, I would love to say that COVID-19 was more of a blessing in disguise in itself, because with COVID-19 we are seeing that we are embracing more of technology. Before COVID-19, we thought that people would sit back at the comforts of their homes and have meetings and work from home. Everyone opted to drive to their offices, to rush to their place of work, and they thought work could only be done in the office. But today, you can sit back at the comfort of your home and do your work. Kudos to COVID-19, leaving aside the effects of the day.
Of course,
Yes. Now, looking at the examples of tech geniuses like the likes of Elon Musk, Jack Ma, and we are to look at the guys of Bill Gates. All those are big tech giants, the likes of Mark Zuckerberg. I think we as Africa, as a continent, and Uganda as a nation, we are embracing that step gradually. Recently, when I was watching BBC, there's a Ugandan doctor who he was facing challenges of, he took his mother to the hospital, and then he couldn't access a doctor. Now, we saw that doctor coming up with an app that can make you make a booking with a doctor on your phone and access the doctor. And there's even a lady who came up with an app that you can order for your drugs online. Now, that is the path that we're going. And imagine that person who comes up with that idea not only will create job opportunities for others, but also will give income to the government. Let us look at how many online platforms do we have currently in Uganda. We have the likes of Jumia, we have Chiku, we have we have a safe border. Now, all those are avenues that are creating opportunities for the young people. Now, the challenge would then be on the government is, I would therefore, first of all, task the government is on the issue of data. Yeah, the internet is somewhat a little bit expensive. Now, I would therefore task the government, if technology is one that is giving young people employment opportunities, why don't you maybe decrease on the tax you put on data to see that we have more avenues more avenues that are giving employment opportunities for the young people. So that is what I would task the government. Reduce on the tax rate on data. You'll see more of the explosion of these companies coming up, and not on even the available companies itself would therefore bring in more jobs. So with all this coming in, with COVID-19 coming in, and the path that we as Uganda are taking, I believe we are taking the right path. If the government reduces on the tariffs on data and gives the young people opportunities to create more jobs for their fellow young people.
Amazing. Lynn,
Yes.
the first question, very brief one. Do you think our government is embracing technology?
Yes, to some extent.
Okay. No, don't quantify it. I know you are a lawyer and you guys love, quantifying statements. But now that you agree that our government is embracing technology, do you think it is walking the talk?
Not to a larger extent.
Okay, thank you. Now, the third question is that, because I'm picking up from where Douglas has stopped, that you have a 12% tax on data. Facebook today remains closed. You require VPN to access Facebook. So meaning so many young people who have failed to get white-collar jobs because of the limited nature of the same, and had therefore moved towards the digital economy. They go get their shirts from Chikubo, put on their WhatsApp statuses and sell. Put on Facebook and get buyers. And that's how they've been surviving on a day-to-day basis. But now the tax on data, a 12% tax, Facebook remains closed. So don't you think that there is a gap, there is an imparity between government really embracing technology and then the policies it's putting in place? Do you think we must really open up and, if possible, because our government needs to know that data and internet is the new fuel of today. It's the factor that drives today's economy. Yeah. So I think that it takes a liberal government to appreciate that the world is moving towards technology, and for all that we can, we must avail internet at almost every single place. So what do you think, what do you have to say about our government policy towards embracing technology?
Okay. First of all, to me, colonialists, right from the word go, they started colonizing us right from our minds. From our minds. Because here is the thing. These people in the West, you find their technology starts right. You find you are a kid, you can make a toy, you can make something with your hands. Because that is what you have been, you've grown up with, or they feel that's the talent. We have also failed to know where our talent lies or what we can do best. Because even if we are saying technology, you have people in the village, for example, in my village in Bushen, some of them don't have phones. But yet we want to, move as society. If we are also saying technology alone, it means for them, because they cannot access technology, then they cannot move on. We need to move on with only technology. So, and even us who are educated, it's not that you find even those who have the money are not using that. They are not using technology. They have no skills. Literally, they do not understand even maybe what to use it for, or some of them feel they have enough money and they cannot use it. So this brings us back to the issue of aligning reality, aligning reality with what is happening now, or what we are hearing, or what we have been used of listening to. Yes, so if we are saying the government, maybe we are only seeing technology in form of posting things on WhatsApp, or in form of, it could be something, maybe someone could make It could be a bicycle, it could be anything that could really swift. Maybe it could be movement. Maybe it could be you find it doesn't use fuel. It could be anything that we can think outside the box.
No, you see, because the point that Douglas, and I agree with him, that
Yes.
he's trying to make is that if you are going to levy a 12% tax on data,
Yes.
if I'm an entrepreneur, maybe I have the tech expert, maybe I'm a software engineer, and I have to come up with a platform like maybe Jumia, I'll think twice and say, but now if I create my platform like Jumia, will I have customers? Which customers need to buy data to access my platform? So if data is expensive, I won't have customers. And that's the business cycle that is being broken down, and we must address it.
Okay, so if we are to beat that, then it runs back to creativity. Because we have the online platforms that are really working. I'm not saying that data is really, it is a problem, yes, it is a problem, but we can find avenues of liaising with the government to see how best this can be settled. But then also it brings you back to, even with this competitive world where people cannot afford data, are those who are affording, are they actually using your platforms, or they are not using your platforms?
Or even, are they using the data for the right purposes?
Exactly, because you find people, actually, we are saying taxes are high, but my friend, you find people are buying data. Like they are buying data. I'm not saying maybe because the taxes.
That is no excuse to overtax them.
Yes, it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. But even when you are saying that the data is high, the people who are affording the data, they are not using it for the rightful purposes. Maybe I can update my status, anything.
Okay, sure. Let me just bring in Comrade Emma. Emma, I want to insist on saying that if we are to move at the pace at which other countries are moving at, or at the pace at which the globe is moving at, then I think we must embrace technology. We must put our feet on the ground of technology if we are to, benefit from this ever-growing global trend. So what that means is that we must allay the fears of people who are seeing technology from the negative lens. That technology, if you look at maybe artificial intelligence, it's going to take away our jobs. If you look at maybe cryptocurrencies, how can my money be put in a crypto nature? Okay, so what would you say to someone who has fears about embracing technology? How can you convince them to say that, hey guys, look here, let us jump onto this technological train because that is where the world is moving at. We shall make more money. We shall build our economies. How can you persuade that person who is having fears?
Well, in Uganda, we still have millions of Ugandans that don't even own a smartphone. We still have millions of Ugandans that don't even know how to operate simple devices. Yeah, and where technology is moving, like you've said, it's moving in the direction of artificial intelligence. It is moving in the direction of automation. What does that do? That replaces human labor. So if we are, first of all, to match up with the technological advancement that is growing globally, then the government of Uganda has to invest a lot of money in educating her citizens to understand the technological advancement. Most of you'll find that it's not even a shock. You'll find someone has graduated from school and they can't even use a computer, maybe to type work, simple things, maybe to use Microsoft Excel, maybe to use Microsoft Word, and so many other things. They cannot run a computer efficiently. If they can run a few things. It is not, we both know it is not a shock. So the government of Uganda would have to invest a lot of money in teaching even the most rural people to embrace technology and learn how to interface with technology. So there are fears, but the fears can only be overcome when there is that, when that urge is fulfilled, the urge of teaching all Ugandans how to interface with technology. Because even up to now, I can tell you 100%, so many young people, so many Ugandans, whether young or old, cannot even operate a smartphone. That is the easiest device I can talk about now. I don't even want to mention the most sophisticated of devices. Now, allow me to also interface with the aspect of vocational training. Yes, I am happy my colleague here, Josephine, mentioned about the change in curriculum. Yes, that is now 2 years, just 2 years. So, but we still have this gap of people, so many of us, our generation that is out there, that has not faced the same kind of education system or curriculum. So what do we do with these ones? I'll first give an example. There has been willingness from government to establish skilling centers. For example, the vocational training institutes. I'll give an example of just here in Tinda, there is Tinda Vocational Institute.
Yes.
But I'll tell you for a fact, not just this one and so many others that are across the country, they are not filled up to their capacity. The number of students in those tertiary institutions, in those vocational training institutions, will shock you that they are too little to even fill up the capacity of the vocational training center. So where is the challenge? You see, as growing up, one of the things that would give, there was that bias from our local areas where we come from, or our families, that a family would be considered prestigious, or would find prestige in having a young person from that family with a bachelor's degree. That, hey, wamala degree, did you complete your degree? You again the Makerere, you get. So that kind of bias has been living with us for some time, that someone was considered to be very good in society, or a family would be praised if their child made it to university. That if you branched off and went to, say, a garage, and you started probably operating machines, you would not be considered in the same regard as someone who has finished a degree. So I am happy and encouraging us, even the people I'm seated here on the panel, to encourage our brothers. Yes, I don't want to find Douglas one day when he has failed to find a job as a lawyer, fail to go to a Tinda Vocational Training Institute to learn a skill, to learn a technical skill. So Douglas, it starts with us, because I know even you might fail to encourage your own brother to go to a vocational training institute. So it starts with us to break the bias.
Break the bias.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Josephine, I saw your hand is up.
I just wanted to interact with him, but somehow, somewhere, he came up with the answer I wanted to ask him, that today we are embracing the technology, because he was speaking of technology, and that the students that have gone off, the new curriculum now, ICT is one of the compulsory subjects.
Oh, really?
I don't know, okay. I don't know if you heard of this, that students should come with gadgets at school. Smartphones, whether at home you have or no one has ever held it, it's now becoming a prerequisite so as to embrace.
I am happy about the new curriculum. I was talking about this gap of us, our generation, that did not face that
now
curriculum.
The generation, like he has concluded, we only need to encourage our fellows that going and attaining a skill is not bad besides your degree.
Yeah, true. Okay, fair enough. Let me just stick with you, Josephine, and as we move towards the last 10 minutes of this conversation, let us just try to bring it back to, yes, we have explored technology, we have explored the education sector, but let's try to bring it back to our, to the precise wording of today's theme. And Josephine, the role of government has an immense role to play. And we have mentioned this earlier on, because government possesses the coercive tools, to influence policy, but also it has capacity to shape the direction that the country should take. Yes, our economy has ever since become a liberal economy, that the private players literally control even the social services. You go to the healthcare sector, the private players are the big players. They are the giants. You go to education, the schools that many Ugandans aspire to go to are private sector led. And so is the case for many other social services, telecommunication among others. So government has a role to play. When the prices of fuel in Kenya went up, the government went ahead to negotiate with the private players, because if you look at the deep pocket theory, government has a deeper pocket to negotiate with private players. So the point is that government, by all means, has an immense role to play. So let's bring it back to our context. Do you think our government has done enough to address the issue of high prices of fuel that has affected other commodities? Because I believe that if government got these private players, put them in a board, they can box, okay, not box in the sense of punching, but they can box them or negotiate them into agreeing on to maybe a given conditions. Yeah. But we also know that some of these private players are intentionally hoarding fuel. They're keeping the fuel to themselves, not supplying it, and just waiting for demand to increase, and then they put it in circulation. But government can come into play and stop all this. So the role of government in setting market prices, has it not done enough?
Yes, at times we blame the government for some issues. It's not that I'm too much on the side of the government, but there are some issues that we put on the government, and some issues may be solved individually. If you are to look on the side of the fuel, there we blame the government fully. That maybe the government has to come in further to push. Because me as an individual, I may be affected by the fuel prices. Yes, tomatoes, they spoke about them. Tomatoes are high. Cement goes on and off, big, high. Today it's high, tomorrow it's low. Yes, in that circumstance of fuel, we blame the government. But still, it's the government that has come up and it has funded people to occupy the different skills, to get different skills. Because if you're to look at back on the education part, because we are looking at the standards of living of the people, that people are poor, people cannot afford to eat, taxes are high on each and everything because of the fuel, tomatoes are going high, food is becoming high because of the taxes. We are grouping everything because of the fuel. So what I can say to the side of the government, it just need to sit and then push, like you said, in form of boxing, to push at least the prices to go low. Because if the prices go low, then people who are keeping in their fuel, waiting for the prices to hike, maybe they'll also remove it and fuel will become in circulation. Because there is a time when fuel, a liter was around you spoke of 5,000 beyond. And people, when you go around the world, that people are saying, around their country, that people are saying the fuel cannot go lower anymore. But if the government stands in as a hand and it speaks about it, says every petrol station, every person selling this fuel, make sure you weaken it to this level because we are going to circulate. So if it agrees that we are circulating and reduces to this level, the private sectors that are keeping it will be pushed. I don't know if you heard of the scenario of cement. Today, Hima cement is at around 32,000 cement. But before, you could hear cement at almost 40,000. So I thought people who have to build houses, people who had planned to build, maybe they are not building because of the cement. But then a lot of wrangles came in among the leaders, so it's to now reducing. So that's the only thing I can urge the government. If it comes in as a hand and pushes these people to the wall, so even the private sectors will fear and saturate this fuel that they have.
Yeah, sure. Because even when Uganda operates a liberal economy, whereby the demand and supply forces dictate the market prices, I think that government still has a role to play in terms of setting price ceilings. And I think the Kenya government has managed to negotiate with the private players, because the idea is that a private citizen, I cannot negotiate with Shell or Total. I have no capacity. But government has that, coercive capacity. But, well, we continue to implore them. Douglas, let me come to you. And let's just try to take this slightly. Maybe the solution lies in our integration with our neighbors, maybe. But the most disturbing thing that happened, that I would say is very unfortunate, is that of recent we admitted the Democratic Republic of Congo to the East African Federation. And that was in the spirit of, let us come together as many as we can. Let us build a common synergy where we have a common market and all that. But about a week ago or 2 ago, I saw a member of parliament in Uganda who rose up to the motion that the Kenyan government had stopped fuel that was coming to Uganda, and if I'm to use his words precisely, he said hijacked trucks that were carrying fuel to Uganda. So this defeats the spirit of Ubuntu, the spirit of the East African Federation. We cannot say we are forming a federation if we cannot be there for one another. So do you think that institutions like the East African Federation have given false hope to Ugandans in terms of being a solution in times of desperate need? Because right now we are in desperate need and we must stand with one another. If fuel prices are high, how can we agree that, okay, because prices are high, we shall have no customary duty at the borders. Let trucks move freely, at least for until prices come low. Because those are some of the solutions that we can come up with if we are working as a team. We remove custom duty, so that there is free movement of fuel so that we can stabilize. Because it worries me that the fuel prices is about to become the new normal. Human beings adapt very easily. We are very adaptable. COVID came, and before we knew it, we were comfortable with staying indoors, And even up to now, we have failed to still get... So human beings adapt. So if we adapt to this new normal of the fuel prices, we are headed for tough times, I must say. So speak to the East African Federation. Is it giving us false hope of being there when we need it? Or we could cut it some slack and say, let's give it some time?
Well, the idea of the East African community is one of oneness. I wouldn't want to assert that because of one incident is going to be, it's going to affect all the essence of its existence. So I wouldn't say that it is false hope because one event doesn't mean it's going to be the usual paradigm.
Amazing.
However, I would say as nations in the East African community, we can come up together. Yesterday, the president of Tanzania sat down with our committee to negotiate prices of fuel. Kenya did the same. I would also love to believe that Uganda could as well do the same. Because as East African community, however much it is a federation that brings up all East African communities, a nation stands on its own regardless of the East African community. The policies of Uganda would affect Ugandans. The policies of Kenya would affect Kenyans. So Uganda, before going to the East African Federation, we need to first come up with a solution as a nation. Because the prices of fuel that are rising, that are going rapidly high, is affecting our standard of living, which subsequently affects the quality of life. Quality of life is subjective because one's happiness is not the same as his happiness or happiness.
That's true.
I may be happy by having 500,000 in my pocket. Someone may be happy by having 100 million in his pocket. So if the prices of fuel are high, and prices of fuel will definitely affect the cost of living, the prices of goods and services. Goods and services such as food, services such as healthcare. So, and if healthcare is expensive for people to attain, then what does that mean? The life expectancy of citizens in the country would retaliate. And what would that subsequently lead? It will lead that people in the country would die, and then shall we then have a Uganda whereby there are no people to live in? So you see, it's just one thing, but it's affecting a plethora of goods and services and delivery of services in the country. Today in the new vision, the heading was, a report by the Ministry of Health was like approximately 14 million Ugandans are facing mental sickness. Now, what does that mean? In a country of 48 million people, 14 million have mental issues. And it said that report can even mean that potentially more people to have more mental issues. What does that mean? If a country people are mentally unstable with the status quo that we're in right now, fuel prices going high, people affecting goods and services, people are stressed. What then happens if people are stressed? Stroke will come in, people will start dying. We shall not have effective working citizens that can deliver to the country.
Life expectancy.
So, yes, and the life expectancy as well will be affected.
Productiveness.
So, yes, all that. So one simple thing is very, very pivotal to affecting very many factors. So as the government needs to sit down and look at these factors and come up with a solution fast as possible. Because if these fuel prices are not fixed, a nation like Uganda, with our poverty rate, with our with the high unemployment rates, we shall have more mad people coming.
Yeah,
that's the truth.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't love to be in Uganda where we are very many mad people.
Thank you. I hope we don't get to that position where we need to expand Butabiga and its infrastructure. Lynn,
Yes.
we have about 5 minutes to go, so I have a question for you and Emma. Then I'll get your concluding remarks. Government strategy in terms of, because the issue is addressing poverty. Because if people are out of poverty, then their purchasing power therefore can increase. The government that we have today is advancing the parish development model, taking money to parishes and increasing access to capital, at the lowest level of administration of the country, which is the parish. So this shows that our government has taken more of, I don't know how to call it, but I think that this approach encourages complacency. I mean, because if government is going to have money available to citizens, money which has very limited accountability attached to it, because I can go to my parish, get this money, but the chances that I will be held liable to pay back are very unlikely. There is no legal remedy. There is no, there is no legal remedy attached that if I don't pay back this money, maybe I can be sued or government can take my property, no? So the chances are high that young people are going to get this money at the parish, use it for whatever business they want, and care to pay or care not to pay it back. So this goes back to our government approach, because we have seen the likes of Bonaba Gagawale, Intandikwa, now parish development model, and the idea is the same, Emyoga. The idea is taking money to the people. But I think over time, this approach has encouraged complacency. People now don't care to work hard because you know that, after 5 years, there will be parish development model. I will go get money, use it, whether I pay or not, I won't be held liable. So our government approach, do you think we need to revisit it or we are on course?
I think it all starts with the policy makers. Because usually there is little consultation from the people that are actually going to get that money. You find maybe a group of high officials or maybe ministries of local government, and they'll just sit down, because we have had these initiatives before, youth livelihood, and they've all ended the same way. However much they say that maybe, you see, this one, we have tried to analyze the challenges before, we have tried to do this and that, and we believe this is, yes, it is maybe a bit better, because you see, from usually you would have to get the money maybe from the sub-county level or from the district. And now that it has been brought down to, I feel like there is more of the grassroots part of it. But then, do people know why they are getting this money? Because I feel like the policy makers are different when it comes to implementation. I feel like these people at the village level need to be part of these policy formulations. If they are saying this is what we need the money for, or if they are saying how best are we going to grow as a society, and how much money can we have, then I feel it sheds more of light to them than the same story coming in. The policymakers will come, we have parish model. They will even spend money in sensitization. These things have been
Mindset
done before.
Change.
Yes, mindset change. And you wonder what kind of mindset they are changing, because we have listened to this before. They will call youth leaders, the same story, day in, day out. And you reach the extent of thinking maybe the problem is with us, the people. Because this year you're going to call this youth leader, the next year it's going to be another group, the next year it's going to be another group. So there is no follow-up. There is no follow-up really on what exactly happens. Because the people that were responsible for the youth livelihood or for the M-Yoga, they are now, maybe they are recommended by different people who are even no longer there. They are no longer even youth, or maybe they have left, they are no longer in that place. I feel that there is more of going to the grassroots, because you find, if it is people, you find I'm here in Kampala, but my name is on a list of people who are going to get money there in Oshane. So in the long run, you find maybe I'm using the money for something different, or I end up using the money for my own things. And even the accountability part of it, you find it a challenge.
Because this is taxpayers' money.
Yes. So I feel there's more of aligning with a grassroots to up in policy formulation than bringing implementation that people are actually not aware of how best can it really help us as a society. And then it also begins with loving and having a desire to see a better society. I feel like people take things for granted, because if you get money, you know you're supposed to develop, but all you do is use money for something else. And in the long run, it has not added value to you.
No, but you see, Lynn, if I get this money, and whether I pay it back or not, I'm not held liable, then I'll be complacent. I'll get the money, go, maybe wed or go do anything with the money, because I know at the end of the day, government is not going to hold me accountable.
Then there should be
actually many Ugandans have seen this money as as government taking, sort of rewarding. There's a whole misconception out there, which I think we need to explore over time.
I think they need to add something like
maybe we could consider, can we have this money into maybe the Youth Innovation Fund, where youth can actually, become more innovative. But, well, we can explore that. Thank you. Emma,
okay.
The last question to you before we get final and closing remarks is that, yes, getting a job is one thing, but the conditions under which someone is working, that all influences, because you know that development, there's actually human development. That if you're working, under what conditions we should be concerned. It's not only about having a job, but under what conditions are you working, So now this brings me to the aspect of the labor rights, I've heard the president, and he made a persuasive argument, I must say. Our president said that, I have not assented to the minimum wage bill because if you have a high labor, or if labor is expensive in a country, how are you going to attract investment? Because investors are looking at the factors of production, a core of which is labor. If labor is expensive, if you're going to a country where there is a minimum wage of maybe 1 million, how are you going to afford to pay workers to work on your plant or workers to work in your factory? So he said that I will not assent to this bill because it discourages, investment. And partly he makes a point. But that should not make us deviate from the fact that laborers need to have rights. That if, Emma, you get a job, but because the conditions are very bad, you won't leave the job and be back on the street. So we won't have solved the problem. So we must address the issue around the labor conditions and the labor rights. So speak to the aspect of the role of labor unions. Two is the aspect of labor rights in general. Then we shall get final remarks.
Well, I don't know why the question is so limiting. I wanted to, first of all, give an opinion on some of the questions.
Feel free to comment, but that's all within your time.
Yes. No. I must appreciate the government for one thing. There has been at least some willingness to solve the issue of the inflation that is ongoing. Recently, we saw the NRM caucus sit, and then we've also seen government meet the CASITA, those groups of traders, such that they discuss on how to. But I must also add that what has contributed to the rise in commodity prices of essential commodities is not just the fuel. Yes, the fuel, we have no control over it as of now because we import it mainly. Yeah, maybe in about 2026, we might have our own refinery and then make our own fuel. So it is not only contributed to by the rise in fuel prices. Yeah. So, but also by our country, our companies here not having, not producing enough, or what I would call the goods that are manufactured locally here are not bought more. Yeah, we highly depend on goods imported. Yeah, so many goods are imported. So our goods manufactured here are not so much popularized in the market. So the government needs to promote more of the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, even though it is not the government, but as Ugandans, we need to embrace the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda system. Secondly, the government needs to offer subsidies to these companies. Yeah, you see, most of these companies don't give good wages to, first of all, the people that work there, hence affecting their standards of living. Yeah, why is that? Because they spend a lot in production. Most of the companies here import the raw materials they use. And now because of the increase in fuel prices, the imports, the amount of money they get, they are charged on raw materials they import to manufacture goods has also led them to increase on the prices. So the government needs to come in. This is where the government needs to come in and offer subsidies, grants to these companies to help them meet some of the costs of production, such that the commodity of prices goes down. So it is not entirely on the issue of fuel prices. Now the question you've asked me regarding labor rights and labor laws. Now, also under the judiciary, we have the industrial court. So many people, so many laborers don't know about it, but it is at the level of the High Court. It is a division of the High Court. It's called the industrial court. Now, this is a court where you can report any issues regarding the abuse of your labor rights. I think we just need to popularize the code and people get aware, because so many people get injuries at workplaces, they're not compensated, but they will go on with their lives because they don't know where do I report to. They don't know that they can report to they can raise the matter in the industrial court and they get a compensation. They don't know that in case your employer is abusing your rights in this way or not giving you the wage you agreed according to the terms and conditions of your contract, you can report to the industrial court. So we need to popularize the industrial court such that it fights more for the laborers in the market.
Civic awareness, basically.
Yes, civic awareness. Yeah.
All right.
So
our time is fast spent.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you. So I'm giving you all 30 seconds, and I'll be timing you here to make just your concluding remarks and your final word on the show. So I'll begin with, since it is the mother's month, and therefore ladies, I will end with the ladies. So let me begin with Douglas. I go to Emma, then Josephine, then Lynn will be the last. So 30 seconds.
Thank you very much, viewers, for keeping up with the Youth Roundtable. I would love to conclude by saying, the topic of discussion today was standard of living, plight of the ordinary Ugandan. It is true that as a nation, we are faced with a time of hard times. Yeah, it's true that we are, in hard times. And as a nation, I would call upon us not to lose hope. But upon calling us not to lose hope, I would also call upon the government to put in work and bring in policies that would therefore have a trickle-down effect on us, the citizens. First of all, you need to go ahead and have a discussion on the fuel prices and have policies that are in place that would help boost the citizens to at least uplift their standard of living. As a country, I would say most people have a very low standard of living, hence affecting their quality of life. In conclusion, yes, we are in very hard times. The government needs to sit down and come up with policies that would therefore lead to a better standard of living and hence leading to a better quality of life as a nation. Thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing you people next time. Thank you.
Amazing. Emma?
Well, I want to say this clearly, that when a country is heavily dependent on imported material, it is left at the mercy of international markets. As a country, this is a time we should focus more on our local investment. The government needs to show political will and support local investors with tax credits, subsidies, so that these companies can run. If these companies are operational, they will employ Ugandans and therefore improving their standards of living, enabling them to earn a living. Then also, we shall end up having improved standards of living, and all these commodity prices will not affect us so much because we produce our goods here and we are not dependent on raw materials. We import all goods we import from abroad, which are going to be faced by those international conflicts, those conflicts that are happening all over the country, for example, between Russia and Ukraine. So the government needs to focus more on improving the local investment here, such that the goods that we make here will not be as expensive as the goods we depend on when they are imported, or the raw materials that are used to make those goods here. Lastly, I want to conclude by saying that a certain Nigerian economist said that, he's called Sam Aliko, he said that when the poor are awake because they are hungry, but the rich are also awake because the poor are hungry. So we don't want to get to a point where the standards of living deteriorate so much to the extent that we shall have high crime rates because people are looking for how to exist. Yeah. So we don't want to get to that point. Therefore, the government, this is a time to focus more on local investment and therefore have improved standards of living.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Good way to conclude, Josephine.
So thank you very much, and I would like to meet you again next time. But on top of that, I would also encourage the government, just like my fellow colleagues have said, let the government put in more to push in the taxes, to reduce them, but also as people, they have brought in a new curriculum, they have brought us something that will change our environment. Let's embrace this new education, because we have been blaming a lot the education system to the level of our poor standards of living. But if today we can embrace this new curriculum, I believe that our standards of living by around 10 years to come, or even 5 years to come, when you have left out these people that have embraced it first, but parents also, because a lot of issues are on about this curriculum, but let's believe that the government has brought in this as the first solution to them to change the standards of living, especially to the lower people around Uganda. Let's believe that by the time it will end, it will have changed our stands.
Thank you. Amazing. Lynn, you have the last word.
Okay, thank you very much, our viewers. I would love to say that it's been a wonderful discussion, but we should not forget that we have discussed this. It has been discussed elsewhere, and it will keep on being discussed. But what are the take-home points? What do we pick up? We should be creative. We need to be unstoppable. We need to be innovative to beat the demand. You need to think of how best are you going to, outshine the rest to see that you move far as a society. And then, of course, me, I'm a law student, but we are doing agriculture in Busega, and we are students at the university. So let's not neglect some things, thinking that because I'm doing this, I cannot do that. It all starts now, because there is no time. By the time you realize, it will be late. Start now, and then you're headed for greatness.
Amazing. What a way to give Ugandans hope in your last statement. Thank you very much, Comrade Emma, Comrade Lynn, Comrade Douglas, Comrade Josephine. You've spared the time to be here, and we don't take it for granted. To our technical team, it's always a privilege that you ensure that our viewers get this show right on time. Comrade Rashid and the rest, thank you very much. My last word on this show are the words of Martin Jr. Luther King in his famous speech, I Have a Dream. He said that in whatever you do, if you're a sweeper, sweep that road. Let anyone who passes on that road have an interest to know who swept that road. If you're a teacher, be the best teacher that you can be, and let the world judge you in that aspect. From us to you, it has been an amazing show. Thank you very much. See you next week on the Youth Roundtable. Bye-bye.